Well, the river is finally receding. It's dirty, it's trashy, but it'll clear up, as always. We're here, loving it again. It's a beautiful day, so we're gonna try to get some roof work done. It's not a roof extension, but we've got to get some more rafters on. That's my hope. I'm here by myself, so it's gonna be a struggle, but that's all right. We're gonna knock out as much as we can. Let's go check it out. So as you guys saw in a previous video, we got this back wall framed up. We came back and we got our double top plate on. Now what I have to do is extend the rafters. And when I say extend, it's really not an extension, but I've got to create a peak and then pitch back towards ourselves. And this is going to be a 4-foot wide sidewalk that essentially is about the height of this ladder. All of this has to be brought up. But we're going to kick a 2-foot overhang. We don't have enough distance from the face of the wall to our connection point to go any more than 2 feet of a cantilever. 2-foot overhang is kind of typical. I would like to have 4 feet to cover this sidewalk completely, but we just don't have the proper distance. On a cantilever like that, you're supposed to be no more than 50%, and we would definitely be more than 50%. So 2 feet is our max here. We're going to cover up half the sidewalk. Most of the weather comes from behind me, so we shouldn't get a whole lot of ice and snow, if you will, on this sidewalk. It's going to get some, but it's not going to get a lot. So I'm going to get the man lift moved around here. I've got to extend that rafter there first. We can do the fly rafter last, but once I get that one extended, I have to also extend the one on the ICF wall. Once I get those two established, I can run a string line from end to end, as I am sure that this wall goes up and down, which essentially will make our top of our wall go up and down. The first thing I'm going to do is confirm that, and I'm going to run a string line from corner to corner to see how straight and flat we are. I know we're level. I just don't know if the wall goes up and down with the base that we're on. We shimmed it. We tried to get it as close as we could, but I'm going to confirm it. If it is close enough, I'll be able to make one rafter and use it as a pattern or a template, a pattern should I say, not a pattern, or a template, and cut every one of them and just install them. That's our hope, but we all know how the castle is. Nothing's ever straight or square. We tried to get it as best as we could, but you just never know. So we're going to confirm all that, and we're going to start throwing some rafters on. All right, step number 1 is to get our board mounted here to create the starting point of our peak. I've got me a little cripple board sitting here to hold it for me. I'll get this screwed off. We'll work our way down through there, but we've got to get this screwed off, get our rafter over here on the left-hand side, and then we got to work this board all the way to the other end, put that far rafter on, and then work our way back. So this is gonna be fun. Don't break on me down there, board. Now we can get this one. Good all the way through there. Looks like we're a shade high there. Not much, just a little. Ooh, boy. Trying to get up there and put more pressure on that sucker. So if I don't get this down, then the next one's gonna be even harder. go. And I can't put screws in that last one. I gotta cut it in the middle. I should have done that first, but I didn't. All right, let's suck ourselves in a little bit and get to the end of that next one. We've got more boards staged right there below us. So I'm gonna telescope back in and get to the far end, get that trimmed and get it screwed off. All right, we got ourselves down here. Now let's get this cut. Only hard part's getting my arm in there. Oh, come on now. Maybe I'll go this way. Just like that. Got her trimmed off. Throw a couple of screws in it. All right, now we got to move the entire man lift down so that we can reach the next 16-foot board. Well, as usual, the castle throwing curveballs. So I put this center board in, and then I look down it and I realize I've got one spot down there that I really don't like. However, it's one spot. Now, essentially I can stick my fingers behind this. So what I did was I took my dimension from the far left side, how far out my string is, and I went all the way to the other end. Shake you guys up a little bit there. Went all the way to the other end and mounted a 2x4 on the last rafter, sticking past at the same pitch, and put me a screw and ran me a string line all the way over. So my string line is 3 inches from this face or 1.5 inches from this face. If I put that string line right on that face, if that off spot right down there, you guys can see it, I'm sure you can see that, it's about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to tolerate it. I know for a fact that that one rafter that I put in will have to be a little shorter, but I've got a 1/4 inch too far back here, and then the next one, yeah, anyway. So I got to cut shims, and I'll have to measure each one before I put my longboard on there and have a shim prepared. So now I'm going to shim the end of this rafter just like this, screw that center board onto it, and then my next board will be shimmed properly to be the proper distance from this string line. So yet again, more curveballs from the castle, which is to be expected. It's okay, we'll deal with it and we'll always get past it. You just gotta hang in there, Matt. Now I know I can tighten that all the way down against that shim because I pulled my measurement prior to. And for those of you who have never cut shims before, yes, you can buy shims, but if you're going to cut shims, don't cut it off of the end of your board like this. Cut your length first and then measure over for each of your shims and rip your shim. Because if you cut this end, all that's going to do is split and fall apart. Whereas you can see that shim there, even though it's extra dry and already cracking, I put 2 screws in that and it didn't crack at all. So if you cut your shims that way, if you're cutting shims, you don't have to worry about it cracking nearly as bad. We're gonna move the man lift, progress down, pull our dimensions, and see what other shims we need. This is gonna be very slow, but I gotta do it right the first time. Okay, to make sure you guys understand what I'm talking about, that measures 3 inches. I know that rafter is good. This measures 3 1/4 inches. So I need to make a 1/4 inch shim, wrote it here, we'll lay the shim there. So as I screw this board off, I can throw my shim behind it and it'll make it 1.5 inches from that string line. Now with that being said, I'll show you guys how I make that shim. You're probably a little crooked there. So again, I pre-cut my 2x, oh goodness gracious, you guys are just falling around everywhere. I pre-cut my 2x6 so that I can then hold myself on 1 inch Because if you hook the end of your tape, okay, it might be a quarter, it might not. If you hold yourself on 1 inch and mark a quarter, I guarantee you it's going to be a quarter. Then I made a square cut first on the end of the board so I can continually square up my shim. The sun's casting a weird shadow, but that's all right. Mark that shim out. You guys can see that mark there. Take your skill saw. Oh, if you can reach it, because you got too much stuff on your tool belt. You want to run right down that line. Our shim falls to the floor. Now you can see I have a 6-inch tall, that's a 2x6. It's close enough to 6 inches. By 1/4 inch thick shim. And now when I go to put this board on, that center board that I showed you guys a minute ago, I will be able to throw this shim on the face of that rafter, and that will bring me out the 1/4 inch I need to make sure that center board is 1.5 inches from that string line. I can't put it in yet, and maybe I shouldn't say can't. I could, but I don't want to put 2 screws in this, as these are old boards. I want to put the screws through the face of our center board and then through the shim. So I'm just going to lay that shim right there, and we're going to work our way down through here, get all of our shims made so that we're not screwing that center board down and needing to come back and fix it later. Give you guys an example as to why this string line is so important. This rafter is different than the rest of them. It's actually too long. So whenever I bump that rafter and measure to my string line, it measures 2 3/4, and it needs to be 3 inches. So I've got to cut a 1/4 off of that, which I measured 1/4, gave myself a plumb line. I may not be able to cut all the way through it with the skill saw because of the roof, but the skill saw is going to get me most of the way, much straighter cut, and then I can finish it with the sawzall. It's all I can reach because of the metal, but we have our handy dandy sawzall with us too. Just use that same cut line. Now I bet you, whenever I measure that, dead on the nose, 3 inches, baby. So now we know that face is the same as this face, is the same as that face, except for the one down there that needs an extra 1/4 inch. We're gonna work our way the rest of the way down through here, get ourselves, I guess you could call it squared up, straightened up, whatever you want to call it, and then we'll start putting that middle board on. Well, let's get our second center board mounted. I've got my little helping hand down there on that end. We're gonna raise her up here. I've got it crowned. That side goes up. Raise her up here and get her screwed off. Ooh, my helping hand's a little too short this time. I must have put it in the wrong spot. That's all right, we can still get it. And this center section here where I'm screwing off at this joint is shimmed. That's the one with the 1/4 inch shim in it. So now we'll be able to cinch those screws down. Got my string line bouncing there. Bam, dead on 1.5 inches. Good to go. Now let's check this one, push it in tight. Bam, 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches. So I know I can for sure get those 2 rafters screwed off. Just screwing off all day around here. That's going to make it much easier to deal with the rafters coming across this wall. Oh my gosh, I'd have, anyway, I'd have had to fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. I don't want to do that. Now I got to figure out how to lift that. I'm going to be able to get my hammer in there. Maybe. Maybe. Let's give it a try. Even if it don't work, we'll always think it should have. Get out of the way, foam. Once I get it up on there. Oh, nope. Maybe if I put my screw up a little higher, probably just strip it out of there then. We just might have to do this a couple of different ways here. Just use my hammer. Oh no! Hopefully I have another tip. Why that came out of there, I don't know. Thank goodness I did. That actually works pretty good using your hammer as a shim. There we go. All right, now I don't think I can get that the rest of the way, but we'll try. There it is. Works a little better when you actually hit the screw. Actually, that's still too low. I don't like it. I don't like it. Let's get our hammer out of there. Unless it'll keep working. Nope. That just sends it the other way. Oh well, we tried. Hopefully you guys could see that. Put a screw in there, shove my hammer in there, and then use the screw to drive down on the hammer to pick that up. But now we got to suck in. This next one is the one that requires the shim. So we got to suck in and get over there so we can raise the far end of that board up where it needs to be. Slow but fun. Okay, this time I'll make sure you can see it. So I put my hammer in there, and then I run the screw in the claw of my hammer. As you can see, it just keeps picking it up, and then I can lift it where I need it. There we go. We'll just leave that there for good measure. This next one is the one we got to put our shim in, because that was a 1/4 inch too far back. That shim should slide right in there, and then once I get a screw in it, that'll cinch her down tight. I guarantee you we're on 1.5 inches. I went easy because I didn't want to pinch myself. That would have sucked. Now we're split on that one really well. We can hopefully use our hammer to get that one up, but not to for sure. It's gonna be a pain in the butt. Nailed it. Actually screwed it. Take our nail back, or screw back out of there. Beautiful day, lots of people driving in front of the castle today. All right, so now we're to our next joint, our next split, and it is splitting that rafter perfectly. So I need to transfer my string line to my fly rafter, and I probably should have done that when I had the man lift on the other side, but I didn't. Stupidity. But here we are. We're gonna go over there and fix that, and then we'll be back. All right, we got our string line transferred, and we also made it to where we had a positive stop for our fly rafter here. our next and last center board will run from that joint all the way over and bump this board. And I got me a whole new helping hand so that it is actually good and sturdy, and I can set my board right on top of that, and it's going to get me really close to this, so I'm on top, bump tight, which should then line me up on my split over there, and everything will be good to go. Now we just got to move the man lift again to get to the other side to work our way back this way. Well, we got her some screws started. You guys can see how my helping hand is going to work out there. Slide her up tight, bump her over. Oh yeah, nice, nice, nice over here on our joint. Hopefully you guys can see that. Our joint over here came out perfect. I'm liking it. Get a couple more screws in that joint. We're going to have to reverse that one so it doesn't split. One more. Ooh, I hate those screws, but whatever. We'll use it. Missed. Hopefully I don't have to ever take that one back out. Okay, looks like we're high here. Not by much, but a little bit. And I know for a fact I can get a screw under that board and should be able to pry that down. Well, son of a gun. If I can get the right screw. And now we were low on 2 rafters, now we're high. You can see where it's high right there, so I have to work my way down there and pull it up and screw those off. We'll be back. We're going to use our hammer trick again. Use our hammer as our wedge. So well over here, not too far to go. I'm going to try it over here. Oh baby, now we're cooking with peanut oil. Screws started in the end of this one. I'll be ready to pull her again. Just like that. We got her pretty good. We'll have to raise that end up over there. Yes, I will be 1.5 inches short of that 2x8, that fly rafter on the outside edge, because this board is the height of the bottom of the purling, where that board is the height of the top of the purling, and 1.5 inch gap, I'm not worried about it. This fly rafter will attach to this center board. This will all be screwed off as you've seen me do down through here, so that's going to be extremely supportive, but I do need to get my 1.5 inch mark. Actually, we're there right now. So we are going to throw some screws to that bad boy, because it's where it needs to be. got a motor, Matt. Raise it up. That's what Ryan be telling me right now. Just trying to see if my gap's good or bad. Meaning no gap. More screw here and we'll have her. Now it's time to figure out the rafters, which I can figure this end out. I'm not going to put the fly rafter on yet. I'll do that later, but I can figure this rafter out once I get this board off of here, get that rafter set right on the edge of the wall here, get it ran to our 2-foot overhang, and then we got to go all the way back down to the other side to get that rafter on so we can run a string line again. But instead of that being the face, we'll run that string line so that we make sure our elevation of our rafter tails is not all over the place, or that fascia board will look like crap. Okay, now we got to get our first rafter in here and make us a pattern. I went ahead and cut a 3/12 pitch on it because that's what I want. Line our 3/12 pitch up. And I may be doing this completely wrong, but I mark this right here because that's the face of the bird's mouth. It's kind of hard sometimes to hold the board, hold a square on there, and mark it. So I don't always do it like that, but you can if you get creative. So now we have our plumb mark for our bird's mouth. And that distance right there is the amount this board needs to drop straight down. So if I measure that, that should tell me how deep a bird's mouth needs to be. It needs to be 3/4 of an inch up the plumb line. So hopefully you guys can see that plumb line right there. We have to measure up the plumb line 3/4, and I'm sure there's a better way to do this. Now this is the part that I suck at. That next line needs to be a level line. So I line that up, and then essentially we need 3/4 of an inch level across that thing. So take your tape measure. Again, make sure that's nice. It all hinges on that being lined up really nicely. We can measure back to where we lose our 3/4 of an inch. And then we can take our pencil, we mark it right there, bring our board back to us. Take the long side of our speed square. This is the long side. Flip it over so that notch doesn't mess you up. You want to be able to lay this thing flat. Lay it down flat and go from your mark of nothing to your mark of something. Mark to nothing, mark of something. That's our 3/4 up, and that's our at 3/4 from our top plate up. Now we just cut that. Hopefully you guys can see that. Nothing point to 3/4 up point. And again, that was 3/4 up from our top plate. Now we got to cut this out, and then that thing should fall right in there. And I went ahead and cut my plumb 3/12 over here. I hope I didn't make this board too short, but let's cut this bird's mouth out and see if we made it right. It is perfectly acceptable to cut past a little bit. That's not going to hurt anything. This is the more interesting cut. I think if I drop my blade all the way down, my past cuts won't be as far. That's normally not that much. That's on me. We'll use this one as a patent, but not use it to hang it up there. Now, well, yeah, you just got to turn that board the right way there, Matt. Well, that there, folks. I mean, that's pretty daggone good. Now I can confirm I didn't cut that too short. Needs to be 24 minus 1.5 inches. So 22.5. I guesstimated that 22.5. What you should do is leave this board long, get it mounted, measure out from the face like I have here, your 22.5. I got lucky. It's a 32nd too long. I got really lucky. Well, that board there, bird's mouth came out really nicely, locked in there almost perfectly. Looks like I could drop the front of my bird's mouth a blades width. So instead of 3/4, back off of that an 1/8. So this is our patent. Now we just got to make a whole bunch of them. Well, we got us a new one from our patent. Gosh dang it, I keep saying pattern. We got us a new one from our pattern. I'm so confident I went ahead and put a screw in it. Just a little overcut on our bird's mouth, which won't hurt a darn thing. When I say a little overcut, the angle's good, but the face here is about a blade width too deep. That's on me. No one else but this guy calls that one. So now we got to get this one screwed off. Once we get it screwed off, we will be able to go down to all the way to the other end and get it. Actually, I don't have to toenail that in. I can just screw that right into the ICF, even though it lifted me up, so I can't let that be there. Gonna have to hold it down, obviously. There we go. That is nice and secured. Put one more screw in her just to be sure. Now we do have to throw some in here. We're not going to toenail it because we've got the ICF stud up here as well, which will make sure that we've got excellent attachment. All right, now I need to put a block on the end of this thing to make sure one doesn't raise the other. I thought I had a scrap piece of 2x4 in here. Nope, scrap piece of 2x6, that'll work. I just want to make sure that I have 1.5 inches up off the rafter so that I don't have to worry about one rafter holding another rafter up. Now that's secured. Go ahead and screw this to the ICF because it will be attached everywhere. Won't have to worry about it flying around. Now let's get our string line screw in here. Now unfortunately, our string line loop held exceptionally well on the other end, so I can't undo the string line just yet. And I really don't want to put tension on the tag end, so I gotta go down to come back to go down again. We'll be back. They always say work smarter, not harder, right? I got my 1.5 inch block. I got my string line on that 1.5 inch block. Now we got to go all the way down to the other end instead of moving the man lift. Heck with that stuff. I've done moved that thing way too many times. We're just going to climb out of the man lift and use the wall we built as a step to get up here. I don't have to move the van lift anymore. Then we can crawl down in this hole. Maybe. Oh. Get out of there. Oh. Have a seat on our lovely built wall. And get our string line established. Pull her really nice and tight there. Draper over the back side. And just like that, we have a string line established. And I did prove the castle building is off. So the pattern, I almost said patent again. The pattern that I made has proven itself to not work. And I'm gonna get all kinds of tangled up in my string line, but that's all right, we'll figure it out. As long as it doesn't break. Ooh, it's tight. That sucker is real tight. Well, all right, now we got a string line, but I have to custom cut every single one of these rafters. It's gonna take forever, so I'm probably just gonna put you guys on time lapse so you don't have to deal with the struggles and the choice words I'm probably gonna say. But we're gonna get this up here. We're gonna make sure all of these are 1.5 inches off that string line. We're gonna get this thing framed before we call it a day, I hope. Keyword, I hope. Well, I got back here so you guys could see the string line. Every one of those had to be cut with a different tail, but every single one of those has a 3/12 pitch cut on the back, and they are 1.5 inches off of that string. That sucked, which is why I only made it halfway. Maybe next time I'm here, which could be tomorrow, I can get the rest of those on, and then I can get the purlins on that sucker, get the fascia board on that. Got to cut my rafter tails off, but get the fascia board on it and move along to the next step. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, like, comment, subscribe, turn those notifications on, and please share away.